So this is missing a page, but page 42 it says this is 41. This is 43.
We will find you page 42.
Okay. Right. So yeah.
So I'll
Yeah.
you finish that, and I'll pose
Yes,
the
I see
question.
that. Yeah.
So having looked at that, your memory is refreshed.
Yes.
So about what time did you see Mr. Hernandez?
Like I said in there, I said it was I would have to estimate if I was going to say, but I said between 2 and 2:30.
Well, the question is not what you said before, but what your present memory is.
Okay, Your Honor.
To the extent the grand jury testimony helps you to remember, then that's an appropriate use of that.
Yes, Your Honor. So
You have a present memory.
I cannot pinpoint a time 5 years later.
So when you did see Mr., what you do remember it was after club venue / room were closed, right?
Yes, it was after let out.
So it was after 2.
I can't tell you what time let out was. It was Sunday, so the times are a little bit different on Sundays. But
Now, when you saw Mr. Hernandez at the let-out, do you have any recollection of him being angry?
I couldn't tell you his state of mind.
Or, just in terms of your impression, did he seem upset when you saw him?
Sustained in that form.
Was it your impression that he was upset when you saw him?
Sustained.
Did you saw Mr. Hernandez, right?
Yes.
And you were within 15 feet of him?
I can't tell you how far I was. I was
Close.
close enough to see it was him.
And you saw his face?
Yes.
And in looking at him, did you see a drink stain on his shirt?
I don't remember being able to see anything on his shirt. It wasn't that close. I just looked up, noticed that it was a well-known football player, and then that was it. I didn't look at his shirt.
Okay. And you know where the Tufts garage is, right?
Yes, I do.
And that's not the area where you saw Mr. Hernandez after close?
No.
No further questions?
Just a couple of questions, Mr. Wallace. Good afternoon, Mr. Wallace.
Good afternoon.
Just a few questions. So is it fair to state that when you saw Mr. Hernandez, he was walking eastbound on Stewart towards Tremont?
Yes.
So within a block of the intersection of Tremont and Stewart where Club Cure is?
Yes.
And when you saw him, Mr. Wallace, is it fair to state you saw him with one other man? I think you testified in the grand jury, right?
That's what I testified, yeah.
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, did you see him walking with one other man?
Yes.
Do you remember what clothes the two people were wearing, Mr. Hernandez and the other man?
No.
And both of them were walking towards the intersection of Tremont and Stewart, correct?
Yes.
And is it true that your best estimate in the grand jury was closer to 2:15 that you may have seen them? Is that right?
Again, it was estimating. I said between 2 and 2:30. If I had to narrow it down, it would have been closer to 2:15.
So earlier in the evening than later.
I don't remember right now.
Mr. Wallace, I'm just going to place 4A on the screen quickly, just to give the jurors some perspective what we were talking about. And perhaps they already know, but so you were at the area I'm pointed to here, venue and rumor. That's where you were working that night. Is that correct? Is your screen on, sir?
No.
Is it on now, sir?
Yes.
This area here is where venue and rumor is that correct?
Yes.
And when you say Warrenton Street, is that the street right here that runs kind of parallel to Tremont Street?
Yes.
And you indicated that when you saw
Tremont
Mr.
was the-
Hernandez, he was somewhere over here on Stewart Street walking towards,
No.
where was he then? Oh, I'm sorry. I
Tremont's the one to the left there.
Tremont's right here, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When you saw Mr. Hernandez, he was somewhere in this area here?
I don't remember. I would have been roughly.
You can circle on that.
Oh, okay. I would have been roughly here. I believe it's a law school there.
Okay, and when you saw Mr. Hernandez and the one other man, they were somewhere where, sir, generally? And which way direction were they walking?
To the east, to the right, towards Tremont Street.
So that direction.
Yes.
And ultimately, Mr. Wallace, you were with your friend Hugo, and you actually came upon the victims in the car. Is that right?
Yes, I was later that night. I was with Hugo, Jamie, and Dana.
And you came upon that scene.
Yes.
And you were actually one of the people who called 911, weren't you?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. I have no further questions.
Nothing further. Very good, thank you, sir. You may step down, please watch your step.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Counsel.
Yes, sir. The defense calls Officer O'Donnell. My understanding, Officer O'Donnell is at the is in the restroom at this time.
It's a lot like our jury when we say line up. All right, wait a minute.
Stop your face, close, raise your right hand. Sir, do you solemnly swear the testimony you give this court and jury in the issue now pending between the Commonwealth and the defendant at the bar shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you, sir. I call you.
May it please the court, Mr. Hagan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
I see you're a police officer.
Yes.
How long have you been a police officer?
Almost 31 years.
Okay, and I'll get right to the point, Officer O'Donnell. Were you working the theater district on July 16, 2012?
No, I was not.
Okay, were you called out for a call that evening in that area?
Into the area of Harold and Shawmut, yes.
Yes. Okay. You had me a little worried for a second there. Make sure I got the right officer. When you received the call, did you head towards the area, the intersection of Shawmut and Harold Street?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see something unusual as you were driving up there?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What did you see?
I saw a street sweeper passing by a motor vehicle with the doors open.
Okay. And at what time did you receive this call, approximately?
I don't recall the time, maybe about 2:30, I believe.
Okay. Were you one of the first officers on the scene?
From my district, I believe I was.
Okay. How far away were you from that specific area?
I was at the corner of Berkeley and Shawmut.
There's a map behind you, if you can. I know you probably don't have.
I don't think my district is on there.
Let's see if this helps. This being Tremont Street, and I think Harold there.
I was in that corner right there.
Yeah, I think we might have a pointer. Right there's a pointer there.
Right in this corner right here.
Okay. And can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury that your path of travel and what you saw?
Shawmut Ave is a one-way street. I had activated my blue lights when I heard the call and went up Shawmut Ave the wrong way.
Okay. And what did you see?
As I got to about the curve, right about the church there, I observed a motor vehicle with the doors open and a street sweeper passing by, taking a left onto Harold Street.
Okay. And were there any other cars next to the BMW?
Not that I noticed.
Okay. Was there anyone there rendering any aid or anything like that?
When I exited my cruiser and was walking toward the scene, I observed another officer from a different district speaking to a victim on the sidewalk.
Okay. And so, fair to say you were the second police cruiser on the scene?
Fair to say, yes.
Okay. And when you saw the street sweeper go by, were there any police officers there at the time?
No.
Okay. So it took you a little bit of time to pull up to the scene after seeing the street sweeper?
Correct.
Okay. And how much time would you say went by?
10 or 15 seconds, maybe?
Okay. And within that time, another officer arrived ahead of you?
Correct.
And then you showed up 15 seconds later?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Hagan.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Just going to do a favor for the court reporter and the record. Can you state your full name?
Officer Thomas O'Donnell.
That's Thomas O'Donnell.
Yes.
And just spell O'Donnell for us, if you would.
O''D-O''N''N''E''L'.
Officer O'Donnell, I just have a couple of quick questions. So when you received the radio call, was it for shots fired or people shot or something to that effect?
I believe it came in as people in a car shot.
And after you received the radio call, about how long do you think it took you to get to the scene?
Maybe 30 to 45 seconds in total.
But you didn't respond to actually hearing the shots. It was a response to a 911 call, correct?
Correct. I didn't hear any shots.
Now, you indicated that when you first saw the street sweeper, you were about at the church. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can I put your witness on?
You may.
So I'm just going to show you a black and white photograph, street view. Do you recognize what's depicted in the black and white photograph?
Yes, I do.
And what is that, sir?
Shawmut Ave by the old German church.
And I believe you testified on direct examination that it was about the church where you first saw up ahead the street sweeper taking the corner. Is that correct?
Correct.
It is a fair and accurate representation, at least in the daylight, and also recognizing it's black and white as to the area where you were when you saw the street sweeper.
Yes.
Can I ask that the black and white photograph be marked as next number? No objections.
And it'll be received.
Also, just placing Exhibit 380 on the screen. The church you referred to, is that the area right here?
Yes.
And the intersection of Shawmut and Harold, is that basically right here where I put the pen?
Correct. Yes.
And you indicated that as you got to the church, you saw a street sweeper basically take to your right or a left-hand turn onto Harold, is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Now, upon your arrival at the scene, officer, did you indicate that there was another officer from another district who was on scene as well?
Yes.
Did he get there before you?
We probably pulled up at the same time. I can't tell if he got there before me or at the same time, but he was already out of his cruiser walking over to a victim on the sidewalk.
And was that Officer Ayuso?
I don't know the officer's name.
Do you remember what he looked like?
I don't.
And Officer O'Donnell, is it fair to state that upon the arrival of supervising officers, including Sergeant McHale, you advised Sergeant McHale that you saw the street sweeper take that left?
Correct, I did.
Thank you, Officer. I have no further questions.
Thank you, sir. You may step down, please.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Baez.
Yes, sir. Defense calls Warren McMasters.
Right this way, sir. And go straight ahead to the hospital.
Stop you, face the court. Raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're to give in the matter now in hearing between the Commonwealth and the defendant at the bar should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you.
Mr. Baez.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. Can you introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Warren McMaster,
And can you spell your last name?
McMaster.
And on July 16, 2012, what were you employed as?
An operator for American Sweeping.
Okay. And did you operate a street sweeper?
Yes.
Okay. And, sir, can you tell us what you saw that evening as you drove through the area? Actually, if I can get the pointer.
Pointer?
Can you show the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there's a stick there, where you traveled as you came up to the corner of Harold and Shaman that evening?
Came from the gutter side right here. Came across down to Shawmut. Right side gutter.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the end of that.
The right. I went from marginal to Shawmut. Right side gutter outbound. Sweden.
And did you drive by a BMW at that time?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you see as you were driving up to it?
It looked like a SUV and a BMW side by side.
Okay,
Yeah.
and what could you observe as it relates to any of the passengers in the SUV?
Looked like someone out of the sunroof with a device in the hand.
Okay. The person that was out of the sunroof, did it look like a man or a woman to you?
It looked like a female.
Okay, and what did you think they were doing?
It might have been calling for help or recording or whatever. But it looked like they had something in the hand.
Okay. Was that, when you say, did it appear that they were videotaping it?
Possibly.
Okay, is that why you say recording device?
It could have been a cell phone. They could have been calling for help.
Okay, but you didn't know exactly?
Yes.
Okay, and then what happened after that? Where did the SUV go?
We just went down towards Harold Street, took a left to Harold Street and just left.
Disappeared?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what did you do after that?
Just continue to sweep my route.
Okay. Now, at some point, did the police ask you to come back?
My supervisor did.
Okay. And what did you do?
And he came back to Marginal and parked.
Okay.
Machine.
And when you came back to Marginal, what happened?
Greeted by a bunch of police officers and my supervisor and just a bunch of chaos.
Okay. When you arrived back on the scene, how did the police respond to you once you got there?
Kind of disrespectfully. And
Disrespectfully?
rude, yes.
Okay. And how did they behave towards you? What did they do and say?
They just telling me to shut my mouth and remain quiet and be under arrest if I said anything. And just pretty much sit there until further notice. And a bunch of them kept coming up and saying the same thing.
Okay. So, were the police happy to see you come back? Objection.
Sustained.
Did the police indicate in one way or another either their pleasure or displeasure of seeing you back at the scene that evening?
It didn't feel like it was a pleasurable thing. It didn't feel like a good situation to be in.
Did they curse at you?
Yes.
Okay. And did they order you to either sit down or
They told me.
out here?
Yeah, they told me to sit down on the side of the road, remain quiet, shut my effing mouth, or be under arrest. Just pretty much told me to shut my effing mouth.
Okay. And were you doing anything disrespectful to them?
No, sir.
Okay. And after all of this occurred, did they ask you to empty anything out, or your hopper or
They
anything?
told me to go to I'd go to Frontage Road and empty my hopper out.
Okay. And explain to us how that works.
I transported my machine towards Frontage Road, pulled up. There was a couple officers there, one in unmarked uniform. I think there was 3 in marked uniform. It was Public Works, my supervisor, and I just dumped my hopper out, which is like a disposal for the machine. And I dumped it out, spread it out a little bit evenly, and we raked it all out and searched through the material, whatever was in there.
So they use rakes?
Yes.
Okay. Did you use anything, I guess, anything more than just a rake?
Shovels, there was a hose.
Okay.
Everything. We searched for everything.
And then after that, did they recover anything there?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you speak to uniformed officers, plainclothes, or both?
There was multiple. There was uniformed and ununiformed officers.
Did you tell them what you saw about the woman in the sunroof?
Yes.
Okay. And did you tell them that you drove through the scene?
Yes.
Okay. And did any of them record your conversation?
No.
Okay. Did they voice any displeasure with you telling them that information?
They're just being kind of like, if you mean it rude to me, honestly, they're just being real rude to me and just telling me to shut my mouth and not to say nothing and just remain quiet and don't talk to no one. There was a news cruiser there. They were trying to get questions out of me. They said, shut your effing mouth or you'll be under arrest.
Did they tell you if you opened your mouth to anyone that you would be arrested?
Yes.
And how long did they hold you for?
About 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Okay. And then that's when they asked you to empty out your hopper?
Yes.
Okay. And then after that, how long were you there with them?
About 20 minutes. 30 minutes.
And after that is when they let you go?
Yes.
Okay. Subsequent to that, how long before the police came to talk to you again?
Just recently, last month.
Okay, last month. And tell us about that experience.
Just they called me. They kept trying to get a hold of me. Didn't have enough time to meet up with them. And then when I finally did, I went to a building and we talked to those two officers there, I believe, detectives, and they recorded a beginning statement. And then after it was done recorded, they kind of summed a couple of things up, like, "Yep, you have to go to court, blah blah blah," and then I left.
Okay. This time, when they called you here a few weeks ago, did they record you then?
The first time they did, and then the second time when I met up with whatever it was, another group of people, they like Wang, whatever his name is, they didn't record me.
Okay. So after they asked you here and they recorded you, did they attempt to try and get you? Do you feel that they tried to get you to change your story?
I don't know.
Okay.
They're trying to see if honestly, they were trying to say that I knew one of the detectives and knew he was there, and I just didn't remember him. That's probably the only situation. Right.
Okay. One of the detectives there was trying to tell you that he spoke to you that night, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you didn't remember him?
No.
Okay. One moment. further questions. Thank you.
I'm well.
Mr. McMaster, when you arrived at the area where you saw the BMW that night, you didn't hear any gunshots, did you?
No, sir.
Okay, so by the time you arrived, whatever had happened had already took place.
Yes.
And what you said you saw was an SUV next to the BMW with a woman hanging out of the sunroof and doing something that appeared to you to be either calling for help or recording the BMW, correct?
Yes.
Now, may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
You were coming that night down Marginal Road, and you took a left-hand turn onto Shaman, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you were sweeping the right side of the street that night, correct?
Yes.
So that means that your vehicle was pressed up against the curb on the right side, correct?
Yes.
All right. And that's because you have those
Got it, purpose.
those brushes that go around and around.
Got it, yeah.
Right. And so you keep to the right, and then you continue to keep to the right to maintain the contact with the far right side of the road of Shaman as you're heading down.
Yeah, that night I could have been a little off the curb just because I was looking at the situations with the
Okay.
people. So I don't know if I was really pressed up against the curb exactly against it.
But you were gutter side.
Yes.
Okay. And that's what you've said consistently, is
Yes.
that you were up against the gutter.
Yes.
Okay. And you continued up against the gutter up until the time you ended up leaving and taking a left onto
Harold.
Harold Street.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Now, you mentioned on direct examination that at some point you ended up down on Frontage Road to empty out the hopper to look through it, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you participated in that?
Yes. Yes, I did.
And your hoppers carry basically whatever it is you pick up on your entire route?
Yes.
And how much of your route had you done before you got to Shaman?
About 50% of my route.
About 50% of it?
Yes.
Okay, so Shaman was roughly halfway through your route?
Yes.
And you went through all that stuff that you pulled out of the hopper, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't find any shell casings?
No.
All right, you didn't find a gun?
No.
You didn't find any projectiles?
No.
Nothing like that?
No, sir.
Okay, and nobody collected anything from the hopper from the police department, at least as far as you could tell, correct?
All the trash was still left there, so I really couldn't tell you.
Okay.
They did not.
But no one took anything
In my
from it while
sights,
you
no,
were there?
No.
Now, there were a couple of other things that you saw that night in addition to the SUV and the BMW. You saw somebody on the ground, correct?
Yeah.
Where was that person?
There was multiple people. There was two people running towards the BMW.
All right, we'll get to those guys
and
in
then
a
there was
second.
someone got out of the back seat that took a couple steps and they might have fell on their knees and fell down.
Okay, so you saw somebody that you thought came from the back of the BMW, take a couple of steps, and then
Fall,
fall
yes.
down. Okay. And what side? The side of the BMW?
The right side, right back passenger.
Okay. I know you're anxious to get to the
No,
answer, but you and I can't talk at the same time. So which side of the BMW did you see this guy fall down from?
The right back passenger.
Okay. So the side of the BMW closer to you. All right.
Yes.
And then you said you saw two other men. Where were those two men?
It looked like they were running from Harold Street down towards the BMW.
running from Harold Street towards the BMW?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember whether they were on the left side or the right side?
So if that's the left side, it was the right side.
This side?
Yes.
Were you there long enough to see what it is those two men did? So you just kept it moving?
Yes, I kept it moving.
You just kept it moving, okay. Now, Mr. McMaster, you said that your supervisor asked you to go back to the scene, and you did that, correct?
Yes, I did.
All right, and you came there on Marginal Road, correct?
Yes.
And according to your, you got to Marginal Road, and were you immediately approached by a uniformed officer?
Met my supervisor, and then I was approached.
Okay. And you said hi?
Yes.
They said hi?
Yes.
And then they immediately started cursing at you?
Yes.
Okay. They immediately told you to shut up?
No.
No?
They might not tell me to shut up right away, but they were getting in my face about where I was and what the situation was. And when I tried to tell them, they would tell me to just calm down and shut the fuck up.
You remember testifying at a proceeding here in this courtroom a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And page 44, line 11. So you hadn't said a word, and they started to tell you to shut up. Answer, I walked right up, and they're pretty much going at me. Question, and had you said a word by then? Answer, I said a couple words. Question, what were the words you said? Answer, hi. Question, you said hi? Answer, yeah. Question, and their first response was, shut the fuck up? Answer, almost, pretty much. I couldn't tell you exactly what their first word was. Could have been like, hey, they said hi to first.
Overruled.
So, beyond saying hello or hi, you said hi and they started to tell you to shut up. Is that correct, Mr. McMaster?
Objection, Judge, that's a mischaracterization of what the transcript says.
Overruled. Is that what happened?
Yeah, pretty much. They're telling me to shut up, get in my face, telling me to sit the fuck down, and I'll be on their arrest. Yeah. As much as I recall from that situation that night, yeah, that was pretty much the situation.
And Mr. McMaster, did you feel like they were trying to intimidate you?
Yes, I did.
Did you feel like you were scared?
Yes, I did.
And when they told you to shut up, that's what you did, correct?
Yes.
So after feeling intimidated and scared and after shutting up, you still insisted on telling them this thing about the woman in the SUV?
Yes.
Okay, even though they were telling you to shut up, even though they were intimidating you, even though you were scared, you still told them about the female in the SUV?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You also said, sir, did you not, that one of the people who was at the scene that night
Objection.
later arrested you?
I'll see you at sidebar.
Mr. McMaster, you allege that one of the officers that you saw the night or the morning of July 16th, 2012, one of the officers who was cursing at you, one of the officers who was intimidating you, that you encountered this same officer some other time after the fact, correct?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
so.
And that second time that you encountered that officer, you claimed that that officer falsified charges against you, correct?
Yes.
And made up an entire case against you that you did not have any involvement with.
Yes.
Judge,
Yes.
it's beyond the ruling.
I will permit the question, but ladies and gentlemen, this is not offered, this evidence is not admitted as it relates to any charges against Mr. McMaster or the truth or falsity of any charges that may have been lodged against Mr. McMaster, and you're not to consider it as any evidence of either misconduct by this witness or reflecting bad character in any way. This evidence is admissible only insofar as it relates to some perceived interaction between this witness and any particular police officer, and insofar as it relates to Mr. McMaster's credibility.
Thank you. And this incident that this officer, you allege, made up against you took place in November of 2016, correct? This past November?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Some almost 4 years after July of 2012.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the officer's name, Mr. McMaster?
No.
Do you remember what he looked like?
Yes.
Tell us what he looked like.
He was in his 30s. Couldn't tell you exactly. He had, like, dark hair.
Do you remember his race?
He's white.
Okay.
Yes.
And you remember seeing him from the early morning of July 16, 2012?
Yeah, he looked like one of the officers from that night.
Your Honor, may we approach momentarily?
You may.
Mr. McMaster, the incident that we were describing, or you were describing in November of 2016, were you dealing with one particular officer?
Say that again? Sorry.
The incident from November of 2016, when you say you saw one of the officers from July of 2012 in November 2016, that you had an encounter with that person, was that the person who was dealing with you directly?
No, there was a bunch of them there, but I seen him there. And he was in
What
my
was
face,
the
too.
person? What was the person that you think was at the scene on July of 2012 doing in November of 2016? What specifically was he doing?
Yelling at me and grabbing me by my shirt, choking me,
Yelling at you, grabbing you by the shirt, and choking you.
ripping my shirt.
Okay. And was anybody else doing that you allege?
There was another officer there, jumped on my machine, trying to rip me out of my machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those two officers.
There was multiple officers. There was like 6 officers there.
Okay. But the two officers that you described are the one that you claim grabbed your shirt and the other one that jumped up on your machine.
The one of them was the guy from.
And that's all you can tell us about those two officers?
Yes.
Other than the one guy that you think you saw in July of 2012 was a white guy in his 30s?
Yeah.
That's all you can tell
It was
us?
dark hair. Yeah. I could recognize his face a little bit. Yeah, you could tell that he was there.
Was
One of
that-
the guys. Looked like one of the guys.
I have another question, Your Honor, but I think I need to see the court.
Sidebar.
Mr. McMaster, the incident that we were describing, or you were describing in November of 2016, were you dealing with one particular officer?
Say that again? Sorry.
The incident from November of 2016, when you say you saw one of the officers from July of 2012 in November 2016, that you had an encounter with that person, was that the person who was dealing with you directly?
No, there was a bunch of them there, but I seen him there. And he was in
What
my
was
face,
the
too.
person? What was the person that you think was at the scene on July of 2012 doing in November of 2016? What specifically was he doing?
Yelling at me and grabbing me by my shirt, choking me,
Yelling at you, grabbing you by the shirt, and choking you.
ripping my shirt.
Okay. And was anybody else doing that you allege?
There was another officer there jumped on my machine, trying to break me out of my machine.
Okay?
Yeah.
So those two officers,
There was multiple officers. There was like 6 officers there.
okay. But the two officers that you described are the one that you claim grabbed your shirt and the other one that jumped up on your machine.
One of them was the guy from.
And that's all you can tell us about those two officers?
Yes.
Other than you think you saw in July of 2012 was a white guy in his 30s?
Yeah.
That's all you can tell
It was
us?
dark here. Yeah. I could recognize his face a little bit, and I could tell that he was there.
Was
One of the
that-
guys. Looked like one of the guys.
I have another question, Your Honor, but I think I need to see the court.
Sidebar.
Hang it up.
To the jury, I am striking the testimony and the questions relating to any encounter in November of 2016. When I say I strike it, I mean it is not part of the evidence, and please disregard any questions or testimony regarding an incident in November 2016. Mr. Lee.
Mr. McMaster, when you arrived at the scene back on Marginal Road, as you were asked to return to by your supervisor, do you have any sense of why you think the police were yelling and screaming at you?
Objection, Judge. Speculation.
If you know, if you have an impression, you may testify to that.
Because the situation at hand was the vehicle, people being injured, just the whole situation. There might have been.
I'm not sure I understand.
I don't know. No, I really don't know. No.
You don't know why they were
No,
yelling at you?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yep.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Mr. McMasters, I'm going to show you 2 photographs. I'd like to see if you recognize any one of them. The first photograph I'm going to show you is a photo of a gentleman by the name of Aquilino Freire.
No.
Have you ever seen that individual before in your life?
No, sir.
Did you at any time concoct a story with this individual to say that you saw a woman in the car, in an SUV?
No.
Okay. Showing you a picture of a gentleman, an Asian man by the name of Brian Kwan. Did you at any time, have you ever seen that individual in your life?
Never.
Okay. Did you at any time ever concoct a story with him to say you saw a female passenger in a light-colored SUV?
No.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
may
Your
step down. Watch your step, please.
Thank you.
Defendant.
We call Chris Hall. Can I have a moment, Judge? There we approach.
Which will be your doctor coming in from out of state, is that correct? And then is there a second witness?
We have 2 more, so we'll have a total of 3 on Wednesday.
None of whom can be available before Wednesday.
Correct.
All right. Very good. 2 p.m.